Red 2 standing by, all for lit and in the green. Welcome back to Super Mario 64. Today we are going to take on one of the game's, well, let's call it more experimental levels. It was one of the interesting things about Super Mario 64. It tended to muck around a lot with different graphical styles and different ways of playing the game, which makes it really impressive in some ways for early 3D gaming. But at the same time, it's kind of awkward having to learn all those different control schemes. I mean, if we just look up here, you'll see exactly what I mean about those different control schemes. You're going to see one of the problems with Super Mario 64 here. Now, let's be honest, the graphics in this look beautiful. They actually experimented a lot, putting a lot of hard work into getting the graphics just so. But the big problem is that you now have to muck around with the water pack. The control scheme has changed. You can't actually attack. You can only grab. You can do a diving attack, which can do something, but it's really not that helpful in the great scheme of things. The coins look a bit different, which I admit is just because of the graphics. But overall, it's a bit of style over substance, and that kind of becomes the problem with a lot of elements when they start experimenting with Mario 64. It's certainly a good game, and it does have a lot of great ideas for the early N64, but they were kind of too ambitious with it, and it creates a lot of problems. Anyway, we talked to this particular NPC, and we still have to deal with the really, really dirty ocean. So, we can also use the water pack to spray various things and get different effects, which is pretty handy all things considered. So there's apparently the tomb of a Knocky king. I mean, admittedly they'd wind up doing that with shifting sandland, but it's not too bad all things considered. The problem is, you can actually find this level pretty early on, and it's going to be a bit confusing. It's a bit of a strange one, let's be honest, because depending on when you find it, you may just be getting used to all the new control schemes, so this isn't going to seem too odd. But then you might just wind up being used to the way the game plays, and then you discover the levels like this, the experimental ones that force you to relearn how to play the game all over again. And that's probably the stupidest thing about it. Nobody really likes having to relearn how to play a game, honestly. It's just not fun. It's why I don't like ice physics. Sometimes you can get those multiple control schemes to work. Like, I appreciate, for example, Shadows of the Empire on the Nintendo 64, because it's just a really enjoyable game and it's got a lot of nostalgia for me. But it does have the big problem that you actually have to change playstyles because of the mechanics of the game. The developers admitted it was very tricky getting everything to work, but they did create some pretty good results. For some reason, blue coins don't count as 5 coins. I mean, what were the developers thinking? They're special collectibles that you can use to wind up getting stars somewhere along the way. And it's just really, really odd that they have all these things happening. I could not tell you why, but I suppose it was just sort of, okay, we're going into 3D gaming. Let's test things out and see what we can do. And I admit, there were some really good results. It's just that Knocky Bay is such a strange, almost incongruous level when you factor in the rest of Super Mario 64. Just something doesn't add up. I mean, it's not entirely horrible, at least. I've definitely played worse levels. I'm fairly certain there's a blue coin around here, but I may be misremembering. There's something over here, I'm sure of it. Maybe it's above it? There it is. See, having to hunt for these just to get a whole lot of stars is really frustrating, and the timing is a little bit different. It's not quite as easy to hit your double jumps. You're really going to be grateful you have that water pack, which is it's a great invention. I'm sure it could lend itself to some excellent platforming, but I just don't think that right now, in a game where we're just getting to grips with 3D gaming, it is the absolute best idea you could have. Right, there should be another lot here. That should really hurt. There we go. Now you will have to just bear with me a little bit. I'm a bit crook at the time of recording, so the voice might sound a little strange. Not that it doesn't already sound a little... Hey, we are uncovering some real good swag here. And if I stick that... Ow. Well, at least I can top up my water, but that lets us get a bit higher up. So this level is full of those intricate little pathways. It's fortunate it has so many coins because you can't actually rely on blue coins. Nor, interestingly, can you rely on red coins. They're only in certain levels across this game and they don't count towards your coin total. Which is an utter nuisance. Let's see, if we go this way... Okay, that's good. We can find a few more... I think we can find a few more. Now, I am a little rusty on this particular level. Maybe if I zoom out... You do get an enhanced ground pound, though, which is really beautiful. If I can... Ah, good, we did get that panel. This is a bit of a maze. There might be some blue coins hidden in here. You will have to try and solve it before time runs out. If you want to save your friends, solve my maze. Let's get back this way and look for blue coins. If I don't get stuck on a wall. The fact they changed so much about this game is a real nuisance. Or at least this level, sorry. Didn't get it. That's a pain. But yeah, the physics engine in this, like when they started stuffing around with this and let's see what we can do in terms of new things. God, the physics engine went bonkers. It's such an issue and I don't know why they decided to mess around with it so much. I mean, early 3D gaming was always going to be a little bit awkward. But you'd think they could have done a little bit better with it. Just sort of, you know, made sure everything flowed pretty smoothly, stuff like that. It would have been nice, but it's just how things go sometimes. There were lots of little hiccups to iron out. That I suppose is to be expected. Can't get everything going right the first time. This really was a game which basically walked so that others could run. Wonder if we get anything around here. Maybe there's a nozzle here later on. Because you can get other nozzles as attachments. I mean, it's fairly handy. And we actually have bloopers. You won't see bloopers in any other level in the game. You can stomp them like Goombas, which is fairly helpful. And there's another blue coin. We're getting a lot of those for our little project. Excuse me for a moment. Worst part of being sick. Nose runs like the water pump. Anyway, another wall kick area. Might get some more blue coins. But it's another timed maze. Oh, speaking of... Ow. Speaking of more blue coins... Now, if I get this just right... There we go. I'm not too bad at this. Sometimes we might be able to fly across. Stuck the landing. Okay. Might be some blue coins near the bottom. But I'm not going to worry about that yet. We'll have to come back and get the 100 coins in this. Because they did actually remove the ability to get the 100 coins and keep going. And here are our bloopers. And our boss. So, interestingly, this particular boss has a very different boss battle theme. It's a much more exciting one, and I think it's a good job that they vary the soundtrack so much with these bonus levels. Because I'm the sort of person who really does love a good bit of video game music. Now, we want to clean up all that gunge that it's sprayed around, while avoiding its attacks. Note that because it's sitting on water, some of its gunge attack is actually hindered. It can't entirely contaminate the area, which is fairly handy. So if we get it from a distance, we can run in, grab its nose. Again, this boss only takes 2 hits to defeat, rather than 3 like most bosses in the game do. Probably because this one's just... well, the mechanics are so different. We can fall down here and ground pound. Now, there is a blue coin in here. And there it is. Maybe there's another one? I will check. Oh, good thing I did check. So yeah, we have that annoying blue coin mechanic we've dealt with. But here we go. We've made it down to that tomb of that Knocky King, and there is our Shine Sprite. Let's grab it, and away we go. Oh, wait a minute, this isn't Peach's castle. Where have we wound up going now? Why are we on an island? Did we wind up going somewhere completely different? This looks a lot better than Peach's castle, I'll admit. Much brighter, much more variety in the scenery. But man, Mario 64 does some strange things. I mean, there are all those stupid rumours out on the internet that every cartridge was personalised. I don't know how they'd wind up doing that, because you might get one for a 9-year-old girl that gets sent to somebody who's 23 years old and really, really into death metal music. But, well, I guess they certainly got a very, very interesting one for us here. So, there's this giant ray of light here. I presume that gets us back in the same way. We just sort of look up at the sun. Oh. Well, there you go. See, we've got one of those red coin missions, but now we can go back to the boss of Tricky Ruins and get our 100 coin star. Now, these are arduous because, as I said, the blue coins don't actually count. Blue coins are completely different. They are their own thing, and you will need them to get certain special Shine Sprites connected to this level. It's a pain in the rear, but there you go. Just one of those experimental mechanics that happened in early 3D video games. Don't know why they could have just been serious, but there you go. We will, of course, wind up getting to the good stuff in due time. So, I want to go up this way and see if we've got any additional coins up through this area. Knocky Bay does admittedly contain a lot of elements I don't like in the form of janky physics and, well, vertical platforming. A lot of the levels in Mario 64 actually aren't troubled by vertical platforming, which is really, really fortunate. Tick-Tock Clock and Rainbow Ride sort of are, but we get to those much later on. Now, I'm fairly certain I can get the rocket nozzle up here. It sort of does what you might expect it to. It launches you high into the air. There it is. Now, if I remember correctly... Well done! Oh, shoot! That has got to be the miss of all time. See what I was saying about vertical platforming and how much it sucks? You make just one mistake. I mean, it sucks that in horizontal platformers you usually die. But you make a mistake here. With vertical platforming, there's so much trudging back. So much tedious wandering around. It's just a nuisance. One little mistake, one overcorrection. You may not die, but you'll probably wish you'd lost a life so that you could go back to the checkpoint. Alright, well that's got us back up there a bit easier. Every game needs something like the rocket nozzle. Oh god, I've overshot again! This game was not good for camera, give me a moment. Okay, we're back up here. Only one word for all that, embarrassing. I have the right tool for it, and yet I still cannot vertically platform properly. That is shameful. 100%, maybe even 200% shameful. Now, we might be able to top up here. Excuse me. And it really doesn't help that the camera is not the most exact. It's a big sin of early 3D gaming, that kind of janky camera. We at least get a shortcut up to our boss fight though, which is really, really helpful. The rocket nozzle breaks platforming. You get such amazing vertical platforming skills out of it. And we can quickly climb up these trees and get a few coins. So we are after a lot of coins. We don't want to beat the boss because if we fall down into the tomb, we're not getting back out there. So we can let poor old Gooper Blooper just sort of stuff around, do things on its own. Just sitting there high on the cliff, Wait, you can actually reach me up here? Oh, you need to die now. This is a matter of principle. You are going down. I don't care if you're an early 3D boss. You are going down. Let's retreat. Spray from a distance. Pull the nose. And away you go. That is what you get for lashing me out of the tree. That crumbles, and now we can basically just go back down. And the mother of all... Oh, yeah, that's right. The water's poisonous. I brought that on myself. Well, I'm going to have to go back and get all those coins again, which is a bit of a pain in the backside. But yes, as you've probably guessed, I just wanted to present it like Super Mario 64 for a little bit. We are back in Super Mario Sunshine. We are... Oh, and I've gone into the wrong level. That's how well this episode's going. Yep, yes, I know you've got it, buddy. I've worked out you've got syphilis. You told us that. You've been to all those swingers parties. We really didn't need to know that, but yeah, yes, you've got syphilis. You've probably got the clap as well. Don't tell me anything more. I don't need to know what you've got. Yeah, don't take a piss in the water when you've got syphilis and the clap. It's not my fault. You're the one with various sexually transmitted diseases. Mario doesn't get anything. He doesn't even get coffee. Which is fair enough, because if Peach says no, she means no. And even if she says yes and changes her mind and says no later on, you damn well respect that. You respect her choice. Why do I have to go to the ocean floor? Is that where the swingers party is? Well, we'll see. And we get a fishbowl on our head, the standard helmet. Very, very interesting. So, let's see. We do need to get coins if we wind up running out of air, but I'm not going to worry about this. I'll see you back. Wow, now I know how all those fairies feel. You know what, we're here... Yeah, this is basically a bottle from the Zelda series. This is basically what happens when you get stuck in a... So, we can use Flood to ascend. We just naturally descend. If anything, this is kind of a... It's very appropriate that I made a whole lot of references to Mario 64, because this is essentially a homage to the Secret Aquarium. It's pretty much a training course for us to hone it. Wow. Well, that sent us flying up. I think that's actually... I presume that's intentional? But yeah, it's basically like the Secret Aquarium. It's a training course floating in the middle of nowhere to teach us how to move underwater a certain way. Know how I've got that bugbear about bad handling? Where is that coin? Ah, and I missed it. Where is it? Rightio. This time... Okay, got that one. The other ones might be at the bottom. So we slowly cruise down and have a look around. There's one here. We can sort of move around relatively capably. Where's the other one? Oh, it's right there. Well, that's good, yeah. So we basically have a nice, safe area with not much trouble to get to grips with our new swimming controls. Not a bad idea. Pretty easy Shine Sprite to get. And a really nice touch that Mario's voice is muffled. That's a pretty good touch. So let's get back into the boss of Tricky Ruins and let's go for our 100 coin shine. I really am going to have to kill this guy anytime I want to go for coins. Or maybe I just torture him a little bit. Grab this and pull back. Whoops, I hate it when it does that. That little pause just messes me up every time. Where'd it go? And there we go. Nice little bit of animal cruelty to add to our rap sheet. Gooper Blooper is sitting there, armless. Which I suppose is a bad pun, but there you go. Anyway, yeah, still... Now, the fact that I am a little bit crook at least gives me the opportunity to talk about a favourite radio program and the terminology I use when I'm sick. Now, I am one of those fortunate people who doesn't get very sick very often. I'm very well aware that I'm lucky in that regard. The worst illness I can remember having was a bad case of the flu around my 8th or 9th birthday. At the moment, yes, I'll admit I have the commonplace flu that everyone is talking about, that risky one. Now, I thought I had... No, I do have the same amount of coins I had. Let's stick to the coast. Now, if I've timed my landing right... We unfortunately didn't get that, but I'll grab the hover nozzle at least. But yeah, so my catch-all term for getting sick, since I usually wind up just getting colds, has been the lurgy. What's significant about this, really? Well, it's British slang, and I have a slight tendency to use a bit of British slang. Okay, I need to move the... This boat handles, admittedly, realistically, for the kind of physics we're dealing with. It does actually demonstrate fairly real physics depending on where you want it to go. But actually making it handle is a complete nightmare, because it's not very obvious how it all works. But yeah, lurgy comes from The Goon Show, a radio comedy program from the 1950s. So it's very much a case of this is of its time. You are going to have off-color jokes by modern standards. They will not wind up sitting particularly well with a lot of people, such as the various Indian accents put on by the actual cast members. There are probably a few jokes, such as the ones involving Ray Ellington, who was black, that might make you cringe along the way, but they do also subvert a few of those. And it is at least worth noting that Ellington was generally given quite a lot of respect, and his musical numbers were absolutely fantastic. But The Goon Show was mostly groundbreaking because it is, in a sense, it's the ancestor to series like Monty Python. Well, there's a fair bit of random weirdness, let's be honest, but there was a lot of random weirdness with social satire involved. This was one of its great strengths. It was able to take the piss, but it was very clever about how it took the piss. In fact, they were so good at taking the piss out of politics that the BBC actually had to tell them to knock it off. Well, some things. They were told to knock some things off because Winston Churchill actually objected to a topical joke. Because Churchill would, in a sense, appear in the show quite a bit, as performed by Peter Sellers. Sellers was remarkable with voices. They had to get 4 people in to replace him if he happened to be sick, whereas Peter or others would easily cover the characters that Spike Milligan and Harry Seacombe did. Harry probably had the easiest time being covered because the only character he provided was the series hero, Ned Seagoon, true blue British idiot, despite the fact Harry Seacombe was actually Welsh. But that would sort of play into things as well. Ned Seagoon was Welsh, but very much had that classic British patriotic fervour, that idea that Britain was still a mighty and powerful nation even after the devastation of World War II, and whatever needed to be done for Britain, Ned Seagoon was the idiot to do it, or to be manipulated into it by the series' usual villains, Hercules Gritpipe Thin and Count Moriarty, probably a spoof of Moriarty from Sherlock Holmes, who was a bit of a ragamuffin, a mastermind early on, but wound up sort of a slightly insane ragamuffin in later series. Always had some sort of weird nickname somewhere along the way. Just part of the zany humour. But there was a lot of that random weirdness. There was a lot of great socio-political commentary. For example, the post-war austerity throughout Britain. Life was pretty drab and ordinary for British citizens, in all fairness. As a good example of the show's humour, in one episode, Gritpipe and Moriarty rowed a boat up the Thames and basically held up England like they were robbing a bank. According to another character, they made off with Britain's entire savings of £3, 11 shillings and sixpence. And when the regular announcer, Wallace Greenslade, was going to ITV, a fledgling television network, as part of the episode's plot, mind you, for the sum of £5, BBC bigwig John Snagg, who was a major promoter of the show, was utterly aghast because there wasn't such money as £5 at the time. Of course, you had all sorts of crazy things like people being bribed with photographs of money, people being paid by gramophone records of money, which of course were counted out in shillings. But there was also a lot of pioneering sound effect work. That was one of the really interesting features of it all, that Spike was able to create a whole lot of really interesting sound effects as a result of the work. A lot of it he actually had to create himself. Excuse me, stupid fish, I am trying not to die. Oh, come on, can I get to the surface in time? Mash that button. I'm gonna drown, I'm gonna drown, I'm gonna drown. God damn it, the air goes down a lot faster than it did in Mario 64. Alright, let me try again. That's not how physics works. I don't think that's how physics works anyway. You see how bad this boat is? You eventually just give up trying to make these things handle. They are just that awful. Now you can use these to get the blue coins scattered about the level. Alright, onwards! At long last, get moving. Lousy boat. This is at least a relatively safe environment. I mean, it's still very much a crash, you're in a lot of trouble. Now allow me to see if I can crash it. So we got another 1-up. So now we can at least try again, and we're pretty much back on course to where we were. Just potter along and get these coins here. Spray out this way, and away we go. How do I know it's allegedly how physics works, but I really don't think it is. Just... how do I... you can't make them go in a straight line very easily. Like I said, this bit, not even the worst part. Far from the worst part. There is way worse coming up, and doesn't that just chill you to the bone? Yep, it's not going to be fun, it's not going to be easy, it's not going to be pleasant when you have to use those boats again. Biggest issue with this level, hands down. There we are, that's safe. But we can continue on our merry way and get some more. Get some more coins, which is our main focus, and I can get back to my story. Which is, of course, The Goon Show. I owe you the explanation of where Lurgy Strikes Britain came from. Well, that's where the term Lurgy came from the episode Lurgy Strikes Britain. Lurgy was a fictional disease made up by Gritpipe Thin and Moriarty to scam England out of a whole lot of money. A mysterious disease that was largely represented by having people say the word yakaboo for whatever reason. Lurgy was allegedly only treated by playing brass band instruments. And of course it just so happened, for the purposes of that episode, that Gritpipe Thin and Moriarty had alter egos who worked as instrument makers. So, of course, it's just a really convoluted plot for them to scam England out of a whole lot of money and make Seagoon look like an idiot. Oh! I'm surprised I did not take any fall damage, but that was a spectacular failure. So we'll go back up here. Try to find those last 8 coins. So yeah, basically that was the whole plot. That Lurgy was essentially a fictional disease made up just to help a really, really complicated scam, and of course Seagoon was just the kind of idiot who'd fall for it. Because that was just how the series logic went. All sorts of strange little things like that happened, honestly. And it was half the fun of it. They would just perfectly take the piss out of themselves and one another with all their creative storylines. It really showed Spike Milligan's skill as a writer. Milligan's storylines, they took a lot of work. They took a huge toll on his sanity, which had already been damaged through his time in World War II. But nothing there. But of course, all these bizarre storylines just made it clear that nothing was so crazy as what passed for real life. Many stories actually were ripped from the headlines. Quite a few would pop up from various real-world political incidents and things like that. That is getting painful. I think we're going to have to find a different course, but we have more than enough coins. We can go this way, we can also wind up going over here and smashing these crates. Get a few coins out of that. Not unless I miss. But yes, the lurgy wound up becoming a catch-all term for disease or sickness in Britain. It's probably not as popular now. But the overall series of The Goon Show was a very, very big influence. As it happened, John Lennon was quite a big fan of The Goon Show, and so was Prince Charles. Admittedly, The Goon Show had a bit of an influence on John Lennon's sense of humour. He had that very sharp and absurdist sense of humour that tended to take the piss out of pretty much any institution, really. A sort of... a serious irreverence, in a way. Just poking fun at all those little things so many pompous people took for granted. Because, in all fairness, there was quite a lot Spike Milligan liked to do to poke fun at the military. Down I go! Got it. Where does it go? Oh. That sucks. Alright. Well, let's get off to it. No, that's very poor phrasing. Let's get to it. Yeah, so, poor phrasing aside. The fact that there were always non-lethal explosions in the series. Do not kill me now! There were always non-lethal explosions in the series. Boy Scout-like character Blue Bottle was frequently deaded by whatever means, quite often an explosion, but explosions were generally non-lethal, perhaps as Spike's way of getting back at the military and the explosion in which he was injured, ultimately not severely. But still, the effects from that did a lot of damage to his sanity. That sanity would be fractured further with the work he put into The Goon Show. But it was an absolute masterclass. It's just sublime comedy in all fairness. It's an incredibly creative series. It sends up the military a lot with people like Major Bloodknock, who is described in a character profile in books of Goon Show scripts as having coward and bar. Bloodknock is indeed a greedy, selfish coward who will do just about anything for money. It's very easy to... Well, we just got Mario Sunshined. I didn't think I could do that. Now I have to find out how to get up to the Shine Sprite. Where do I go from here? Oh, this is going to be awkward. Bear with me. But yeah, Bloodknock is always portrayed as a greedy, arrogant coward with severe flatulence. That explains all the explosion effects. They're pretty much fart jokes. Spike was also fond of putting a lot of dirty jokes in the series as well. For example, the one character is named Hugh Jampton, which is a reference to the slang term Hampton Wick, which was, well, your dick. Spike's own philosophy on the matter was, if they know why it's dirty, they've got no business being offended by it. While the series did rely on catchphrases quite a bit, just sort of as a natural evolution of things in a way, Spike wasn't hugely fond of them, pointing out that a catchphrase is essentially just a line of dialogue repeated over and over again until people are brainwashed into laughing at it. And he actually did prove this with a rather interesting example. Was having a random character come in with an opening door effect, shouting more coal and then disappearing. It seemed to get a lot of audience attention. sort of proved his point. Now, let's see. Ah, good, I do need to get that. But the pioneering sound effects that developed a lot for radio really do bear mentioning. Oh, please! At least I've got a good story to tell while I'm trying to get up there. Goddamn physics. I hate that so much. Just the slightest bit of momentum always catapults you off the ledge, and it's always the way in Mario games. You can't just stop on a dime. There's something that screws you up in precision platforming. You can bend jumps in impossible ways, but it doesn't matter if you're ripping the control stick the other way to avoid falling off. You will fall off if the game wants you to fall off. Oh no, I didn't realize that could happen. That one's on me. I think I got that blue coin. But yeah, there's a really good story to be told about Spike's use of sound effects. As I said, the Goon Show kind of pioneered the use of a lot of sound effects in the radio. The development of it all was a lot of work. Don't need that. There we go. But it was also incredibly creative, though Harry Seacom had a really good story about Spike trying to actually get a sound effect going. He asked for a custard to be made. He went down to the BBC canteen and asked for a custard to be made. The lady working the canteen thought that Spike had an upset stomach. I think at the time custard could be used to wind up helping with upset stomachs. So she's prepared this custard and gone, "Here you go, Spike, here's your custard." And he thanked her, took off his sock, poured the custard into his sock, swung it round his head, and thumped it against the wall. Unfortunately for Spike, he didn't get the sound effect he wanted. But, I mean, that sense of absurdity, there was always a bit of absurdity, a bit of anger against the system and the stupidity of the modern world. That is getting really annoying. Maybe I need the rocket pack for this? Thank you. There probably is something I need the rocket nozzle for, and now I need to find out where on earth I have to go to wind up getting to the 100 coin shine. This has been such a long episode. Let me try going out into the bay for a moment. But yes, I do recommend The Goon Show as a comedy series. While I understand that it is quite dated in the form of societal attitudes, I'm not going to deny that for a moment. It is a creative... Oh, I am not making that. That I'll make. It is definitely well and truly behind in terms of societal attitudes. But it's a very interesting, creative, and clever comedy series as far as I'm concerned. Thank heavens. But yes, do check it out. It is, in a sense, a precursor to the likes of Monty Python and all that. It's well worth a go. Oh, I'm surprised I made that. How much further do I have to go? Alright, up the path. Make sure the camera is centered behind me. The camera is not the most cooperative. Slowly up the spiral shell. Kind of wish I was going up Spiral Mountain. Always a good thing when I'm feeling a little bit down, the soundtracks of Grant Kirkhope. And at the time I record this, we've finally got news about Sparks of Hope again. Which is really, really good because it gives me yet another opportunity to basically watch Grant Kirkhope and David Soliani roasting each other on Twitter. Easily one of the best double acts out there, and they've produced some amazing... Oh god, camera. There's no Mario. Alright, good. There we go. Till next time, this is Red 2 returning to base.